Good. Please rise for a pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do a roll call. Alderman Vocart.
Here.
Alderman Blank. Here. Alderman Old.
Here.
Alderman Bell.
Here.
Alderman Wilson.
Here.
And Alderman Lewis.
Here.
Can I get a motion of approval of November 21st, 2023 meeting minutes, please?
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to special items, we have none. Appointments to boards and commissions, we have none. Scheduled public comments, Premier Development presenting proposed development plan. Please state your name.
So, let me do an introduction real quick, just so they kind of know what to expect tonight and what we're doing here. So, as you know, I've sent out some preliminary design concepts for what they're thinking at the Ashland Commons property as part of the development process and part of the development incentive process. In working with bond counsel, the next step of this process would be to present the initial concept to you guys. So we'll kind of go through their slides with them and give you the opportunity to ask some questions. The goal tonight is get a little more familiarity with what they would like to do in Ashland, see if there's a comfort level from the board to, go forward with what they want to do here. And from there, we would circle back with bond counsel to start looking at the actual development incentives, and if it's something that the board wants to entertain, starting the necessary actions related to those development incentives. So this is the initial presentation of what they would like to do, what they see the financial impact being for the community, and getting some feedback from you guys so they can tweak their plan or whatever needs to be done to move forward with the city. So with that, sorry to steal your thunder a little bit, but.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you very much for that backstory.
Hold up here.
So, thanks very much for having us. My name is Drew Reeves. I'm the Director of Operations for the Premier Group. I have with me my colleagues, Jordan Lewis, who's our General Counsel, and Kristen Colbert, who is our Leasing Manager. So today we're here to talk about the Commons at Liberty Lane, which is our development project here in Ashland. The property in question is 26 acres, directly south of the YMCA, directly north of the primary school. And it is essentially slated in the city's plan, as I understand it, to be a mixed-use property, so a hybrid of residential and commercial for the city. And that's very in line with our aspirations for the property as well. Next slide, if you would. So the Premier Group is a private equity group based out of Columbia, Missouri. Just there off of Stadium, we have about 30 professionals that work for us, 2 satellite offices, but for the most part, we are very Columbia and Ashland centric. We have about a half dozen team members that live here in Ashland full time. And our ownership is also very integrated with Mid-Missouri and has lived here and is very influential as well. So long backstory in Mid-Missouri. A big portion of what Premier does as well is commercial property management and developments like this. So that's a large aspect of our business. So jumping right in, I will say, next slide if you would, jumping right in, this is a concept, and I'm going to say that several times. This is all subject to change. This is the concept that we've run our numbers on and done our modeling on. And I'll walk you through it here to kind of explain what this looks like. So up is north in this picture, and the YMCA would just kind of be there where lot 2 is. But I'm going to start with lot 1. This whole eastern side of the property is commercial. So when we say that this is a mixed-use development, in some broader, bigger cities, that would mean that it's more vertically mixed use. In this case, we're laterally mixed use. So we're going, the left or western side of the property is our residential. The eastern, kind of 2/3, is commercial. Lot 1 is modeled up currently to be a small grocery. Lot 2 is modeled to be a small drive-through fast food restaurant. Lots 3, 4, 5, and 6, they're kind of vertically in the center, are standalone retail or office. So think bank or doctor's office or anything kind of that fits that bill. And this could be standalone single tenant commercial there in the middle, or as you see with that, the bottom, the southernmost of those buildings, that's kind of drawn to be more modular, so it would be a multi-tenant space. And it kind of all depends on the commercial partners that we can get in this project. Shifting to the right, lot 7 and lot 8 are more of that modular idea. So these are much larger buildings. These are multi-tenant spaces and modular designs. Lot 9 in the southeast is kind of our idea of a town square, which we very much like and have been trying to integrate into this project. Kind of an open green space, a space for gathering that kind of makes our development a destination location for Ashlanders. Is it Ashlanders? How do we call it here? Does that work? I'm gonna go with it, Ashlanders. Also on that lot 9, we have the event barn kind of mocked up in that space. That would be a reservable area for Ashland to do events and things like that. The western side of the property is residential. And by residential, I mean build to rent townhomes on lot 10. So these are connected, upscale, not duplex, but similar, connected housing, 4 to 6 units per overall building. Not builder grade, slightly above builder grade, but also not premium, nothing super fancy, but nice and upscale. And we're gonna essentially build these, hold them, rent them, looking for tenants, especially young families that are looking for a place to rent instead of buy here in Ashland, and kind of that category of renters by choice. So young professionals, older folks that want to kind of do the aging in place strategy but not own their own property. That's kind of our key demographic here. North of that, lot 11 is currently mocked up to be apartments. And these are similar to what you would see in Columbia. So this is 3-story apartments. Depending upon the footprint there, it would either be 16 units across 3 stories, so 16 total, or 8, and they would be connected by a breezeway in the middle, very similar to what you'd see at some of the Kellys and stuff like that in Columbia. Next slide, if you would, please. And this kind of works in parallel with that map. I just didn't want to hit you all with too much information on a single slide. So this outlines the same lots that we just discussed, tells you their type, and then tries to explain kind of the footprint in terms of the acreage and the square footage of the different mocked up buildings that we currently have. And then using our analytics team, we've tried to work up what that means for employment in Ashland, and you can kind of see that on the right-hand side. Again, this is a concept, and it kind of all depends on what the actual tenants there, what their business is like, what their employment and personnel needs are, et cetera. Next slide, if you would. So kind of the differentiation for us, or how we are different from other commercial offerings in Ashland. I think primarily it's the location that is very nested within the residential areas of Ashland. You know, to the west is a ton of new home development. To the east and southeast is all the existing homes. We very much want to be integrated in with the neighborhoods rather than just kind of that idea of the stop off the highway, which we kind of have momentum or have organically designed over the years. We very much want this to be a destination location for growing Ashland, kind of that idea of the town square, bringing people together. And we want to kind of put our best foot forward with changing some of the dialogue or the momentum in Ashland with sidewalks and things like that, where we can make this a location where people can come and bring their families, make it walkable, bikeable, kind of that whole piece as well. And all in all, we're looking for a more upscale commercial district in Ashland that has the attached residential that is kind of a destination location for Ashlanders. Next slide, if you would. So timeline, this is rough, but our development work, so carving out the lots, bringing utilities to them, getting the roads in place. We're slated to have that complete by November 1st in our planning. Residential would be phase 2, and this is especially focused on the townhome aspect, less so the apartments. The townhomes would be the next 2 years of our development, and kind of as we stage them in, get them rented and try to build more as we're renting the ones that we have complete. And then phase 3, it depends a lot on commercial partners. So this could, if we get early commercial partners, we could be building some aspects of our commercial synchronously with phase 2, or it could take time after that to find the commercial partnerships. Next slide, if you would. Back on the residential side, just to give you an idea of what we're looking at with our floor plans for these townhomes. This is kind of the core piece that we're interested in, the core residential unit. And this is a 2-bedroom. We're very intentionally trying to keep our rent lower with current build prices and interest rates and everything else. So this is a smaller unit, but it is kind of the idea of a double master. So upstairs, for young professionals, there's 2 master bedrooms, both with the attached bathroom. Or if young family is the tenant, then we would be looking at kind of that kid's bathroom plus the adult bathroom, and it's not so much overlapping. So trying to do kind of a more upscale build that fits the different demographics that we're after. On the main floor, I could see this changing a little bit to perhaps do a more open concept on the left side there by shifting the bathroom up to the top right, but it's kind of all in flux and depends on the actuals when we get to that phase of building. I will say too, we intend to go some 3-bedroom and back down to some 1-bedrooms also, but I think kind of the core will be this 2-bedroom design in my estimation. Next, if you would. So potential monetary benefits, this is napkin math done by our analyst in Excel, but it's still napkin math, right? This is the idea of commercial revenue. So once fully stabilized, we believe that the commercial revenue generated by this location could be upwards of 47 million annually. And we've mocked up Ashland's benefit there on the right, which would be that 1.6 in sales tax. The property tax is quite a bit less than that, but still money, which is nice. Next, if you would. Community impact. So we have a traffic study. That's probably the first and last questions that I'll get here is the traffic in that location. We're executing a traffic study now. We have a group out of St. Louis that's working the numbers and has been in conversations with the city about this. It is estimated to be completed by the end of this calendar year, so closing in on that date. And I would say there's still a lot of unknowns for us as a development group with regards to the traffic study. So there's a lot of variables there, and we have a decision point coming up with our own ownership about what the traffic study means for us and what it means for the project. Environmentally, a year ago-ish, we completed a phase 1 environmental on the property. There was no recognized environmental conditions. It all looks clean and looks good to go. Next, if you would. So that's hopefully the beginning of the conversation, the end of my prepared comments, but I'd be delighted to answer any questions that you have.
Well, when you're talking about upscale apartments, do you have rough price ranges that you're going to be shooting for?
So we're trying to keep our rent sub $1,500 monthly, which I think is on the high end for Ashland right now. But a lot of that has momentum from being built earlier and financed earlier. So it's a tough environment out there to be doing new builds, but we're trying to make it work.
And those residential units, I understand correctly, you're going to retain ownership and
That is our plan.
of all of them.
So a lot of our strategy is asset management. So buy and hold or build to hold and rent. So we absolutely want that build to rent, and that's kind of where the ideation of this property came from, is us looking for zones in Ashland that we could build up some of that rental population and kind of do what we wanted. And I feel like we stumbled upon a bit of a unicorn for Ashland with regards to the location there and what we can perhaps do with it. It's a really nice location that we're excited about.
Do you do the same with the commercial? I mean, obviously, maybe not the fast food restaurant per se, or maybe, but do you plan on holding those buildings and renting them to tenants, or is that a sale and?
Certainly possible. It really depends on the commercial partnerships that we get and the commercial tenants that we have there. Based on some of what my understanding is of East Ashland Plaza, it seems like some of that has been bought up and is being held for commercial partnerships but not being resold. Maybe that's not completely accurate, but that's kind of my understanding. So we are open to selling some of those lots. We would also be delighted to be partners in commercial property management for those groups as well. So.
Yeah. Well, cart way before the horse, but I know that one of the issues that we have had is particularly downtown properties that we've had a number of businesses come and go because the rent is significant, and a partnership that keeps businesses that can grow and develop and be part of the community instead of here for 6 months is a bonus, I guess you could say.
So you're saying that you would like to see us, you think it's a positive to be able to sell off some of the lots and let them have their own locations?
Well, yeah, I guess, but I mean, I'm thinking it from a standpoint of with your guys' track record and what you do is that, I mean, obviously this is like your baby, right? That you put all this time and effort into it, and that you would probably make a better effort to make sure the business tenants are able to remain than selling off to some people who can then, maybe just look at the dollar signs.
All too often, of course, cities have developers that get a project going and leave. So it's comforting
That
that
makes
it's
sense.
not their
And we're
business
very
model.
local, so I think a big portion of this project is us trying to build something that in the community that we live in, that we're also proud of and that represents who we are as a business and as people, so.
I think maybe what Nate was getting at to an extent is the issue we've seen in East Ashland Plaza is a lot of those lots were sold, that development went in back in 2010 or thereabout. A lot of those lots sold and the developer didn't have the thought at the time to have appropriate language in those purchase agreements. Those lots have just sat stagnant for a very long time. So as you look to attract commercial partners and potentially sell some of these lots, potentially be cognizant of that, obviously for your benefit, if you're gonna have incentives on it.
Yeah, we'd like to see activity.
Is critical.
Do you have a similar type development in the central Missouri area that?
So
like
we
this?
don't, we have a big backstory in commercial and industrial properties, but a lot of them, so Premier is fairly young, but a lot of them have been purchased rather than built. We have a construction manager who had his kid's violin concert tonight that has a lot of experience building larger developments like this. So we're confident in our ability to execute, but we don't have existing locations for that now.
Do you have existing residential developments though?
A very few. It's an aspect of our portfolio that we'd very much like to grow very intentionally though, especially in a mixed-use development, which we like a lot more than just residential rentals.
What about conversations with community partners, given that the proximity to the schools and the YMCA? What have those conversations been like?
So we haven't done a lot of outreach yet because we're still trying to get solid ground on the development, make sure we're moving forward with it, make sure the numbers work for us. We do want to do a lot of that community engagement and would absolutely take feedback from here. Sometimes it can get to kind of be that too many cooks in the kitchen, but we certainly want to build something that Ashland is proud of, and we, any partnerships, any advice from the city, we would certainly take seriously.
My only concern is that traffic, I know traffic's everybody's concern, but, and I mean, realistically, for like 2 hours of the day, an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon is the worst, So, and I know that you guys will develop it in a way, if you choose to go forward, to, lessen the impact and that kind of thing. But obviously, I think that will be the biggest hurdle. I mean, the plan is great. I mean, I think we've looked for these types of developments to come if possible, and it's just fitting into the area.
Yeah, again, the traffic study is a big wild card for us also. basically having to resolve that major intersection of the southeast, but also having to resolve the east side too there by Sarah Lane, I think is a challenge as well, because there's an existing property in place there that we have to figure out a way around. So the traffic study is gonna bring a lot of things to light, I think. It'll close out a lot of variables.
Drew, let's circle back to incentives being sought so that the board can kind of have an understanding of what's being asked, since that'll be the next step. Obviously, they still have to go through the actual developmental process of going through P&Z and all the public hearings and whatnot associated with that. But on the financial side of things, if they're looking for development incentives, there's other public hearings that will need to occur and an action taken by the city over the next handful of months. So let's kind of circle back to what Premier is looking for.
Sure.
Since
I can
you
talk
did
to
kind of
that a bit.
include that.
And I didn't spell it out completely here in the slides. Essentially, our ask of Ashland is the establishment of a CID to allow us to levy a 1% sales tax in the district. And then Chapter 100 benefits, which would include property tax abatement, 50%, for the extension of the Chapter 100, as well as being able to leverage the city's sales tax exemption to help us reduce our initial costs.
So the CID, that's much like what's in East Ashland Plaza, so 1 cent sales tax on every transaction within the district itself. The tax abatement would be 25 years at 50%. And he's got those numbers kind of ballpark there. Obviously, as things change, we'll dig into these numbers a little bit to see what it looks like, but there's the napkin math.
Super fancy napkin.
Remind us, so with the extra cent, we'd be sitting at a what sales tax?
And they would, we wouldn't, it's not
Well,
that.
yeah,
It's
I know.
us. It's definitely us.
But I think without the extra cent, we have the
10,
highest sales tax in the state, essentially.
So we had 10.45 or 10.65.
It would be the same as
East Ashland.
usually
Plaza.
East Ashland.
It's really deterring all those people at break time over there.
I know it.
And Taco Bell.
Taco Bell.
Taco Bell's killing it.
Do you have any leads on commercial development? Or,
So
I mean, I know
certainly,
you can't say, but
we do have leads. We really don't have anything solidified yet. I think it's really gonna take us putting in some of the development monies, getting it posted out on some of the standard locations to really attract some attention. Right now, it's kind of cold calling, which is just not that productive.
When you say there's, I think it's lot one for a grocery store, was it lot one? Um,
I would say it's a small grocery.
yeah, so are you thinking more of a mom and pop local business, or maybe a national chain that would go in there, or?
I guess my guess would be that it would be a national chain. I don't know which of them, but
How many square feet do you, I think I probably should.
will you go one forward?
Yeah, so Lauren, for your reference, since you should get the reference, that's about the square footage required for like a fairway size. So,
Yeah.
The town square, it said something about a conference center or a meeting area. Kind of what did you have in mind there, like capacity?
So we'd love to be able to host like weddings, kind of like what you might see. There's a location in downtown Columbia that's a pretty upscale wedding venue, something like that, but our plans really aren't solidified in terms of what exactly it would be. We'd love to, as Ashland grows, be able to kind of have that upscale location that's available for rental for major events. I know we have a couple of locations now, but we kind of don't have that niche covered.
That might be the most popular portion of the development.
Yeah.
I mean, like
Something
you would
that-
not believe the need for like a upscale meeting / wedding / I mean,
Something that could hold, what, 200 to 300 people range?
I was thinking kind of 150. You think it's that big? The need?
oh yeah.
Awesome. That's exciting.
if I had the money, I would do it. I still do.
Any other questions? So again, I mean, obviously conceptual, we don't necessarily need to focus on that quite yet, but the goal tonight is to kind of get a consensus or feeling from the board on the incentives. There's a lot that'll have to go into that on the back end. And obviously, a lot of these wheels need to be turning in unison for their benefit and ours as we seek to move this forward.
It says 25 years.
That's what they've requested.
I think it was CID 27, and the chapter 100 is 25, I think, in our formal ask. Semi-formal.
Are those amounts a make or break as to whether or not you can continue with your development?
To me, the margins are really tight. Interest rates especially are just brutal for trying to do something like this, and the front-loaded capital is challenging. Two, like we find when we're trying to do kind of due diligence on investigating Ashland, there's not as much information as there would be in kind of a primary or secondary market. So it's like we have thoughts and kind of inclinations on what to expect out of here, but it's not as solidified as in larger towns, of course. So to us, that strikes us as risk and makes it a more challenging project to get funding for and to get past our ownership for sure.
Any questions? So do we need to have a discussion, a closed meeting about these two items?
No, I mean, there certainly would not need to be a close, and we don't even necessarily have to have a full-fledged discussion tonight. It's more of a feeler out to see if it's worth continuing to produce required actions with the bond council. So I mean, there are, like I said, a couple months worth of work to be done if incentives are desired to be offered by the city. I know we've kind of talked about establishing our incentive policy and guidelines over the last year, but it's kind of fallen back burner. Obviously, aside from that CID, the city has not really done much with incentives in a long time, so certainly none of you have experience with that. So it's a learning experience. This seems to be a good project to potentially learn together on.
Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Great presentation.
Going on to the public hearing, I see none. Introduction and the first readings, we have none. Moving on to old business, again, none. It's pretty agenda tonight. New business, a resolution approving an agreement with the Ashland Optimist Club swimming pool.
Teresa and I have been working on this for the last couple of months. It's time to start considering the renewal of the pool agreement. It's set to expire at the end of December. The original agreement, it had some stipulations in there on when we would pay the Optimists, when they would report to us. All we did was try and change that so it better aligned with our actual fiscal planning cycle, so that the ask for money wasn't coming after we had already made and approved the budget. That way it just kind of fit into our planning cycle a little bit better. Same with their report. We don't need an operations and maintenance report in the spring. We'd probably like to see that in the fall when the season's concluded. So that's really the only change that we look to make. We asked the Optimist Club if they would like to revisit the dollar amount. They said no, that what we're giving is sufficient for their needs at this time. One thing that we will probably do is try and engage with them a little bit better. I know they have some very minor maintenance issues, and for those that aren't aware, it's all Optimist volunteers that kind of help from the adult side. Obviously, they have a lot of kids that are employed down there as lifeguards, but in terms of going in and fixing a leaky toilet and stuff like that, probably stuff that we can go help with very easily on a need basis. They just need to kind of keep us in the loop on some of those things, because again, a lot of the issues are fairly minor. They do have an extensive capital project list that they need to fund, so that'll kind of be part of their operations and maintenance presentation. They'll come tell us, this is what we used your money for, these are the next ones, and that's not to say that they won't come ask for more money in the future, but for the purpose of this agreement, they've requested that we renew for another 3 years at that $6,000 a year, so it'll be evenly split, $3,000 for operations and $3,000 for capital improvements.
Any questions for staff? No? All right.
Do we do any sort of review of like their operations at all?
How heavy do you want to get into it? Because we don't currently know. I mean, I don't know. They obviously did not come and give a presentation, so the goal is to try and get them back on that, where they come at the end of the season and say, this is what we had. Here's our,
I think it's a huge
Revenue
benefit
loss.
to the community, and I think what they do is really nice. I think, I know like we pay for an annual pass, and my kids through daycare are there like every day, and it breaks out to like, I think like less than $1 a day. I would gladly pay double than that because we're a heavy user of that, and so I think when you're asking the whole community to subsidize, I think it makes more sense to ask people who use it to pay more, like my family, which we would pay more. Certainly, and so like from a business perspective, I think, you know, considering raising the prices of the heavy users, I think makes sense. And then I would also say, it appears to be significantly overstaffed at some points. In that I see like large groups of people hanging out in the snack bar every time I'm there. And that's, you know, I don't know anything about the operations other than from what I observed. And so again, if we're asking the entire community to chip in taxpayer dollars, I think like a review with an eye to the business side of, hey, if we, you know, increase prices by, given the inflationary times, by $25 for the summer pass or whatever, can we make sure that the people who are using it pay and that we're not just sticking this cost on everybody who might not use it?
I know the young lady that talked to Kyle and I, she's new into the position. The person that was running the Optimus pool has stepped away from that, so she's rather new, so we could talk to her again and let her know what we're looking for and see if she can't give us that information. And give her that advice, maybe she's never had that advice to raise it up for that.
And I don't know what the, you know, and I don't know the history behind it. And again, I would say, you know, kudos to the Optimists for doing what they do because it's a great service to the community. But at the same time, I think, what is the summer pass, like $50 or $100?
It's 125 or 150.
It's so cheap. And
It is.
you go to the pool at Jeff City and I pay $50 one time for my whole family to get in. So I think there's probably a middle ground there. That would help everyone out and still support the pool, but keep the cost down on people who aren't using it. So just, yeah, I mean, I'm okay with approving it tonight, but I think as we're looking to the future, I think there are some tweaks that I'd like them to at least consider, moving forward.
I know the family plan's 150. That's what we have.
Okay, yeah. But that is way too cheap.
It is, and my boys don't use it.
Do you
So
know what the daily pass is?
$3, is it? I think $3 to swim all day. I think before this.
I have an 18-month-old, he's gone there, he swam, and it definitely was cheap, so. Oh, I can speak to him, I can pay.
They get you on the snack bar.
they do.
You know, but I
It's
mean,
like everywhere.
but like for an example, like some of the daycares, like they go every single day. So 3 kids every single day, you know, I feel like I have underpaid in the past. So, and I think there are probably other people. And then, you know,
I'm sure they're willing to take a donation.
I
Like
know,
it.
and I, you
I'm
know,
gonna tell Kyle to just raise your rate.
but if we're using our tax dollars, then my elderly neighbor who is not using the pool at all, you know, is kind of subsidizing my use of the pool, which I feel like is unfair. So.
Yeah, we can certainly broach it. You know, like I said, we did give it to them to review their financials and come back with a higher ask if they wanted to. But we can certainly continue to revisit that with them. Like I said, they do have a fairly extensive capital program that needs to be funded,
Well,
so.
and even if that, when you talk to them, even if that extra money gets deferred into the, what do you do when this pool breaks down? I mean, I think we talked 4 years ago that this, you know, 35-year-old pool had like a 25-year lifespan, so we're on borrowed time as it is.
Right.
I think there was a pool plan reviewed in like '01 that said that.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's almost as old as I am. And I know I don't function like I
I
used
mean,
to.
I went to the movies once and it was like $110 to see that silly Taylor Swift thing. So to pay $100 to swim all summer long, I mean, it's just, those things should be revisited, and I thought that for a long time.
And I don't disagree with that, but you also have to realize that the community pool was funded by donations, by volunteer labor, was completely built that way. And the Optimists have tried to keep the prices down because there are people in the community that can't afford, you know, to spend a lot of money on that. And so I understand, there are people that can afford to pay more and there are people that cannot, and so they're kind of trying to play both sides so that it is used by the community, and so some of that community, you know, taxpayer dollars that we're contributing is funding for people that wouldn't be able to afford that, and I think that's a good thing too, but
Yeah, and
certainly to revisit it is not.
Yeah, and I'd love to see them set up a program more like the YMCA where, you know, they charge regular rates, but then if you need, you know, assistance, the YMCA has the outreach fund to fund it for people who can't. So I would love for them to charge more of the market rate and then really be able to help out people who can't afford it.
And that would be a good option.
Yeah, I think that would be smart.
We'll visit with her.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Jennifer, okay. Can I get a motion approving, a resolution approving an agreement with the Ashland Optimist Club swimming pool?
I'll make that motion.
Have a second?
Second.
Alderman Volkart?
Aye.
Alderman Plank?
Aye.
Alderman Ode?
Aye.
Alderman Bell?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
And Alderman Lewis?
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Moving on to reports, mayor's report, I only have a few things. Had a resident ask about Angel Lane, about a roadblock up there.
He ran away.
He ran away.
So that project is about ready to be bid out or bid out, we published that already.
It went out.
So bid publication went out today, so we'll open those bids within the next month. Get started on that repair.
I told her it sounded like a repair was going on.
Yeah, so that, I know James reported on that previously, but that's a pretty big culvert. It was actually repaired just a few years ago, but we had a big rain event a couple months ago and that culvert failed. It actually uprooted and turned underneath the road on that specific section, so now it's
And then also, Skyline Cafe, the developer has removed the back wall. And I've had some residents reach out about safety as far as kids.
I believe Darren had that conversation with the developer this morning about getting that fenced off.
Any ground on a flagpole?
I gotta figure out how to get a light on it, so we're still,
James.
that's gonna be a last quarter of the fiscal year type
Got it.
project.
No
We're
problem.
gonna start winding down the budget cycle.
And that is it, sir. Moving on to mayor's report, or city administrator report.
I have nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. City attorney's report.
Just something for close, that's it.
Something. Interim police chief report.
Sergeant Heath, have these handed out already? Quick copy, we have managed to, we've actually got 5 independent units operating now, which is good for months now. When I came here in July, we had 3, one of those being supervisor. And of course, then over the course of time of hiring people, that is still a single unit, but it has 2 people in it, right? You got a training officer and a trainee. So we're finally have all of those out operating independently. One of them is still on day shift till December 27, just to give him a little more time, but he's operating on his own, acting as a full unit. He'll be going to nights after December 27. And so the upshot of all that, and I didn't give you a comparison, but that total activity is almost double what it was last month, just having the extra units out there. You know, because basically a trainer and a trainee are still just doing the work of one cop. But as soon as they split up in 2 cars, they're doing two, and so that has been very good. A lot more self-initiated activities than last month, and so I think that's good. And so right now we are running, every day we have a 6 a.m. to 6 p. car running, and then that little overlap in the afternoon most days with a 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. That 3-hour gap in the morning, we're still covering that with an on-call, which is the day shift guy. So if he gets called in early, he'll just try to take off that afternoon and still have a 12-hour shift instead of having to work longer or get paid overtime. And so what we'll do initially when Officer Behringer gets cut loose on the 27th completely, we'll put him on one of the 3P to 3A shifts with another officer who has a lot more experience than him. There'll still be 2 units, and so we'll have that extra coverage there, 2 cars at night. And so that's a good feeling if you've ever been in the 1 car at night. And then We do have some applications in the pipeline. We're budgeted for 2 more full-time slots. And so now that we've got everybody trained up, I know every police chief in the country says this with trepidation and fear, but it appears right now these guys are gonna stay around a while, which would just be awesome. And I like every one of them, and so, hopefully if we can get 1 or 2 more of those openings filled up, we can add that other night of the week for another 3rd car, and just be better all the way around and give these guys a little bit of flexibility. So, we're still providing good coverage. So, you have any questions, anything? I know I don't think we've had any Christmas parade went fine from our end. And I know we're gonna have some people, we've got at least 2 or 3 working during this reindeer event coming up Friday night, which, just to let you know, could be nothing, could be a huge mess, because they've got 800 people interested on Facebook now. What that turns into in actual bodies, but even if it's half that, that's a bunch. Now, they have done a lot of good planning, and so, we'll see how it goes.
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
Roundabouts, are you supposed to use turn signal?
So,
I
we've
have so many
been looking into
people
that. So, so one of the things about Missouri that's kind of funny, there's Missouri statute, there's Missouri criminal or traffic code, right? But then the Missouri Department of Revenue running their license and testing, all that, sometimes their guidebook will be different than actual statute. And so, as near as we can tell, and we've done some work on this, you do not have to use your turn signal going into the roundabout, because obviously there's only one way to go, right? You got to go right. And we got a lawyer here. Why am I talking? He's talking. But according to Missouri, as near as we can tell, once you're in the roundabout, you are supposed to signal that you're going to exit the roundabout. Right. Now, that being said, as a defensive driver, I think trusting any of those turn signals would be a terrible idea, right? And so just ignore those turn signals. But according to the deal, yeah. Now, and I know there were some complaints on Facebook about it. I don't think we've written anybody, I've checked, I don't think we've written anybody a summons for not using their turn signal to exit the roundabout. I still think I'm a good driver. I can be honest with you, I probably don't exit every time I don't signal every time I'm gonna exit the roundabout, so.
Almost every city uses the model traffic code in Missouri. It's at least 50 years old. It has lots of provisions about horses in the street and things like that. So the gaps and overlaps and inconsistencies do come along. I don't think it's a huge problem here, but he's right. This does come up. There is a difference of opinion about the technicalities of driving. I'm sure Ashland has a model traffic code.
We use the Missouri.
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand. It's not terrible. It's just really old.
But there are.
Before roundabouts.
Yeah.
Well, having been in a roundabout where someone actually did manage to go the wrong direction, it was quite terrifying. We should issue summons.
Oh, no, that's different. That's a different issue. That's a different issue than signaling to, doing everything right, just signaling or not signaling. That would be a different issue. Yeah. And I have witnessed some of that. I spent my first bit of time here trying to decide whether Columbia or Ashland took the award for worst roundabout navigation.
We definitely take the award for most roundabouts per capita.
That's probably true, but I'm still confounded on which city's worse.
Census population, city of Lake Ozark is not that big, so they probably still beat us.
Really?
Yeah.
It's very small.
Going back to the reindeer event on Friday, last night at the ABC meeting, we talked about parking at the primary and elementary school, and then using a shuttle bus to move people back. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, they've got agreements with, I think almost all the surrounding businesses that'll be closed at that time to allow parking there. And then they have discussed and reached an agreement with Southern Boone Schools to park, for their permission to park at the elementary and the primary school. And then I can't remember who they told me had buses, but they're running the buses back and forth to help people. And we're gonna have the same, Boone County Office of Emergency Management has that mobile traffic alert sign that we had sitting over here for the Christmas parade. We've kept it all week, and we're gonna have it dialed up with a different message, really just warning people that there's a, right?
Reindeer crossing.
Yeah, well, it's something to that effect, yeah, I can't remember what, it's, Sergeant Worrell is really interested in making those signs creative and, but yeah, I can't remember, it was, I think it's okay, but yeah, basically, at least people will know when they come into town that they're just stuck, they don't know where they can go, but at least maybe they'll know there's a reason. So, and I think most things do work out a little better than we're afraid they will, so hopefully this.
And I haven't been on Facebook much today, but I don't think I've seen much in the way of talk about parking or the shuttle bus situation, so that I hope they're gonna.
They've been pushing it, it was
Yeah, they-
posted today,
Came out
Okay.
tonight.
and it shared a few times.
They said they've been posting on Facebook and Instagram to try to encourage people to park and ride the bus. And so,
If
and
I'd taken more breaks at work, I could have checked
Yeah.
Facebook, but.
but we just don't know, I just don't know how big a draw reindeer petting is, you know, I don't know how huge that is, I don't know, maybe the biggest event ever.
And you saw the parade turnout.
That's right, yeah.
Any other questions?
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, appreciate it very much.
Moving on to Board of Aldermen, Alderman Lewis.
Only thing I can think of is I, along with Therese and Stephanie, Melissa, and Darla, attended the county municipal banquet last Thursday. Very good turnout. I recommend, if you're able to go next year, to do so. It's good to collaborate with our surrounding small cities. Kind of makes us feel good to, when we hear their problems, it's like, you know, we're sitting in pretty good shape here. So not going to brag too much and make them feel bad, but it was a good meal.
I hear we're hosting next year.
Are we really?
That, I don't know. It's quite possible. We had that conversation. We didn't know how that rotates, you know, so.
Well, the Hallsville FFA barbecue team catered it, so maybe if our FFA group could get a barbecue team, that would be.
We got a kid with a hot dog cart.
Right, that's all we need, is hot dog.
Yes, very good feed. That's all I got.
Thanks, sir. Alderman Wilson?
No report.
Alderman Bell?
I don't really have a report. I do have an update. I learned that Columbia bid out that airport restaurant. And so that's, I think, affects us as well. It's not actually going to be a restaurant. It's going to be like advanced vending. Jackson Brothers of the North, they have a website. It's local. I think they have business in Moberly and Fulton and Columbia. But for those of us in mid-Missouri, still pretty neat update. So glad to hear that. And I think they said 6 months to 9 months maybe, so still a ways out, but.
Alderman Old?
No report, no one has emailed or called me about anything, so.
Alderman Plank?
No report.
And Alderman Bocart?
No report.
Moving on to general comments from the public. Can you state your name, sir, and address?
Pardon me?
Can you state your name and address?
Yeah, my name's Dave Rafel. I live at 402 Lima Lane in Boone County. If I could impose upon you to take one of these and pass it along.
Sure.
I ran for the Missouri House of Representatives in 2022. I will be running again in 2024. I'm here for you all to see what I look like and for me to get familiar with who you look like. I have met Lauren. No one ever looks the same without their hat, so, and he's told me about his desires to have a skate park. It's late and I got a business, I will be brief. I tell people I am originally from St. Charles because that's where I finished high school. I came down here in 1977 to go to school. All these years later, I am now a husband of 40 years. My wife and I raised 2 sons. They are now married. I have 3 grandchildren, and the 4th one will be delivered sometime in April, or so we hope. We've been told. Up until March of 2022, I worked for the Missouri Rural Crisis Center, Patchwork Farms. I don't know if you're familiar with them at all, but we try to keep rural small family farms sustainable. Some years, I did that for about 9 years. That overlapped with some years I spent working for the Salvation Army there in Columbia. Some years before that, I worked at a small vineyard down on Route A, a little place across the street from the Mons Chapel Church. It's now a goat ranch. And I've done other things before. I've taught, I've played music. I'm 68. I left home when I was 17. I've had 51 years to do a lot of different things. I am running for office again, for the same reason I ran last time. I would like to be a Democrat who goes to Jefferson City and finds some Republicans who will work on issues of the public good and get away from all the wedge issues and the culture war issues that divide us and tear us apart. That is simply it. You can read details of what I think. I am not abashed to tell you what I think. But mostly, I try to convince people that I'm not an alien. I lived in Missouri my entire life. Maybe I've been affected by the fact that you got to go to college on the GI Bill. Maybe that's why some people think I'm a bit odd and peculiar. But then you gotta square that up with the fact that I made a living driving a meat truck. I've got kids. Sometimes I tell people, and it's true, you can come look, I've got a dog, a canoe, I've got a shotgun and a rifle and a pistol and a revolver. I just don't think I should be able to sell that to any idiot that wants to give me money for it. I'm that kind of guy. I'm easy to get a hold of. I will answer your questions. I have nothing to hide. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Sam Turner, 16360 Eagle Pass, Ashland. My name is Sam Turner. I'm running for Southern Boone County Commissioner. My background, I own Turner Ag Solutions, which is an agriculture input business. So you're talking about roundabouts. I know all about getting farm equipment through it. That's real fun. But we've had a lot of practice thanks to Ashland. Some of the things I'm running on, I have a 4-year-old son and a 2-year-old daughter. They're the light of my life. They're also the reason why I want to, public servants. I want them to grow up in a community that they can love and respect and want to come back to. By doing that, I want to make sure they're safe. So fully funding the sheriff's department, making sure that pay is competitive with the rest of the state so that we can recruit and retain sheriff deputies. I'm also for supporting freezing property taxes for senior citizens. Boone County's raised their property taxes 16% the last 2 years. For folks that are on a fixed income, that's pretty difficult. And it doesn't have to be like you were talking about, some folks have wells and means to afford that. Some folks don't. You can't make it a mandatory deal, so we could make it to where it's a voluntary deal where you come into the county's office and prove you own a house in the county, prove that you are over 65 years old, and then you qualify. So not everybody's going to take advantage of it. And that being said, the county's got a $130 million budget. I think that money should be put toward our schools. We're not trying to hurt our schools by freezing property taxes on folks over 65. But there's a ton of issues, and I realize that I'm the only thing keeping you guys from your families. But like I said, I'm an Ashland resident. My wife and I both moved here in 2018, where we started our family. We both have degrees from MU, and we chose Ashland to be our home, and can't think of a better place to raise our kids. So I don't have any fancy handouts yet, but if you guys need to get a hold of me, I know several folks here, but I appreciate your time and appreciate you guys. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
All right, we'll go on. We'll vote. Can I get a motion to go into closed session to discuss Missouri statute chapter 610-210, article 3 and 1. Can I get a motion? I have a second.
Second.
Alderman Wilcart? Aye. Alderman Plank?
Aye.
Alderman Old?
Aye.
Alderman Bell?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
And Alderman Lewis.
Aye.
We'll go to closed session. Very good. You wanna,
Need a roll call vote to come into open?
Alderman Bocart?
Aye.
Alderman Plank?
Aye.
Alderman Old?
Aye.
Alderman Bell?
Aye.
Alderman Lewis?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Mr. Mayor, in light of our discussion in closed session, I would request that the city cancel the termination hearing scheduled for Thursday. Can they get a motion?
Can I get a motion on that, please?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second?
Alderman Lewis?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
No.
Alderman Bell?
Aye.
Alderman Old?
Nay.
Alderman Plank?
Aye.
And Alderman Bocart?
Aye.
Motion carried. Motion to adjourn. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Go home, people.